Hey everyone, it is Mary Hyatt and welcome to the Mary Hyatt Show. I am so excited that you are here because I have a fabulous episode planned for you, and forgive me for having my little technical difficulties. We are trying to troubleshoot and get everything working smoothly for you. Hopefully we are on live now and everything will just be amazing throughout the rest of the show. And while you are hanging out, I want to make sure that you know that I have a podcast version of this show. So if it's easier for you to hop on your iTunes or your SoundCloud or your Google Play, this is a great way for you to catch the episode on your way to work, on the way to taking the kids to school, without having to worry about logging on to YouTube. So I want to encourage you, while you are there on the podcast, The Mary Hyatt Show, to subscribe. So all you have to do is scroll down and subscribe, and then go ahead and, if you will, do me a little favor and rate this podcast. This is how more people get to have access to the show, and that they actually go, oh my gosh, this is worth listening to. This is good. And all you have to do is rate it with 5 stars. And of course, if you feel so inclined, what would be even more amazing and what would be so incredible would be to go ahead and write a little quick review, what you love about the show, what you get out of it, and that way others are able to kind of just have some proof that I am a real life person that is good at my job and loves what I do and encourages people to listen. So without further ado, let's get into the show today, where we're going to be talking about the fat attack and what you can do to recover from it. But before we hop into today's episode, let's officially start the show. Hey guys, it is Mary Hyatt and welcome to episode number 52, How to Recover from Your Fat Attack. Oh my gosh, you guys, I am thrilled to get into this topic today because I feel like this is something that I often struggle with, and I know that if you are a woman that is alive and is beyond the age of 13, I guarantee you have experienced the fat attack, even though you probably aren't very familiar with what it is or what it is actually all about. But you know the feeling. Y'all know the experience where you wake up in the morning and the night before, somehow you were 20 pounds lighter than when you woke up this morning. All of a sudden, you are 20 pounds heavier. You look at yourself in the mirror and it's like, oh my God, and you look down at your stomach and you feel like you're so bloated and you feel like everything looks different and you're looking at your body in a different way and you're under some bizarre trance that says to your mind, overnight, you just gained tons of weight. Now, let's be clear. This is not rational. This is not actually real life what has happened. There is actual no way for you to gain 5 pounds overnight, 20 pounds overnight. It's just not possible. But your brain doesn't know that. And a fat attack is different than, for example, feeling fat, going throughout your day and you just oh, I kind of feel gross, or I feel bloated, or maybe your pants feel a little snug or something like that. This is different than that. This is sort of it occurs overnight. All of a sudden you feel extremely fat, as though you just gained all this weight overnight. Okay. So That's what we like to call the fat attack. Or Anita Johnston, who I got to show y'all this book. If you're listening to the podcast, I will link to this book because you can't see me hold it up. But for those of you who are watching the YouTube show, this is a book that I've just recently started reading that's been recommended to me multiple times over with all the work that I do with intuitive eating and helping women recover from disordered eating. And it's called Eating in the Light of the Moon. And Anita Johnston talks about this fat attack, and she says that a fat attack is different from generally feeling bad about your weight. It comes on rather suddenly, and it's very intense. And so it's not based on reality, even though it generates a feeling of being very real. Like we actually think that somehow this happened. And we sort of go into panic mode, and we go into sort of this hyper vigilance about our bodies. We start thinking about what we've been eating. We start thinking about, oh my gosh, did I, not burn off enough calories? Did I not eliminate this? Did I drink too much alcohol? Oh my God. Oh yeah, I had that dessert over at Sarah's house the other night. Oh my God. Well, maybe that made me gain 5 pounds. Or, oh, well, I slept in and I took a nap and I was kind of lazy last Saturday and I really didn't move my body much. Well, maybe it was that. Or we start thinking about all the different foods that have been tempting us in the week. And we start thinking about, well, God, I haven't been on a diet in so long. And all of those fears, all of that diet mentality thinking starts creeping back in. And we start sort of looking in our lives to find and research and find proof to ourselves that we've been on bad behavior. And then, as you know, with diet mentality, we talk a lot about this on the show. And obviously, in the course that I have of Babe Redefined, which you can get on the waiting list on that at maryhyatt.com, where we go into making peace with food. We talk about intuitive eating. We talk about this diet mentality thinking that is just so prevalent in our society today. What we do is once we go into that place of blame and shame, when we start thinking that we've done the wrong things, when we start looking for how we've been on our bad behavior, how we've messed up, how we've fallen off the wagon, how we've sinned, and somehow the body that we're living in is proof that we've done something wrong, then we sort of turn on ourselves and we start looking around of how to fix it. So this fat attack that happens inside of ourselves makes us start obsessing. It's like A leads to B. A is the fat attack. Oh my God, I've gained all this weight. This is not real, okay? This is not actually what's happening. It's not waking up with the scale moving at all. It's a perception. It's seeing ourselves with a little bit of or a lot of body dysmorphia, seeing something that's not actually real or feeling something that's not actually real. Can I get an amen from those of you guys that are watching on the YouTube live? Comment and let me know. Oh my God, I just had one of those fat attacks the other day. I had one literally just this week, and I went to my friend. I said, I literally feel like I've gained 20 pounds. My clothes don't fit any different. Like, I know it's crazy, but it really, I feel so heavy. I feel like I've gained all this weight. And so what it does, that's the A. The B is obsession. All right. We start trying to figure out how we can pay penance for our bad behavior, how we can sort of right our wrong or make up for or do penance for our sin. How we can lose weight. We start obsessing about losing weight. We start researching diets. We start looking into what we can do to change our behavior, promising to be better this go around. We start sort of making these deals with God where we'll say okay, God, I promise if I cut out sugar next week, please let me lose these 5 pounds, God, if I go work out 5 times this week, please let me lose these 20 pounds that I just put on my body. We start obsessing. We start really looking for a solution to kind of bring us back to the place where we are lovable again, where we are acceptable again, where we are beautiful again, where we are thin again. Now, none of this, like I said, is actual reality. And that's the difference between kind of a fat attack and just feeling like, oh, I'm feeling my body and it's feeling sluggish, or I'm feeling a lack of energy, or my pants are getting a little bit tighter, which in and of themselves aren't bad things either. It's just body awareness. But fat attack is a delusion. It is an illusion. It's not real. But y'all, women face this fat attack all the freaking time. And so it throws us into this obsession of food and our bodies. Now, I want to pause here and say, like, this is going to be the aha moment of the show. Okay, so listen to this really carefully. When you experience a fat attack, it has nothing to do with your body or food. It has nothing to do with your willpower or your dieting behaviors or whatever. When you experience a fat attack, it has nothing to do with your body or food. Your fat attack is coming as a messenger. So it's coming to help you avoid something in your life. When you're having this fat attack, it's kind of a beacon. It is a signal that is pointing you and showing you that there's something in your life that is really upsetting you. It's a learned coping mechanism. And it's sort of a way of your psyche saying, girl, like mine would say, like, Mary, shit's getting real. And quick, I want you to start and to focus on how fat you feel. Like, okay, it's really happening. So shift and focus on your fat. Why? Why do we do that? Because it gives us a distraction to seek out some kind of control in our lives when things feel out of control. This is the reason why people go into obsession, to focus on something that they feel like they can control when their own lives are feeling out of control. And so Anita Johnston, she says, if I'm obsessing about food, fat, and dieting, what I'm doing with food is distracting me from the real issues I struggle with in my life. As horrible as feeling fat is, as painful as it is to struggle with feeling fat, focusing on feeling fat gives me something tangible, gives some definition to troubled feelings that may seem unresolvable. So basically, this obsession is just our sort of like dysfunctional coping mechanism to avoid. It's an avoidance tactic. And y'all, I mean, I gotta be honest, it seriously works. Like, let's just call it for what it is. It works. Nothing scares women into obsession, distraction, or obsessive distraction like the feeling of being fat. It threatens all our things. You know what I mean? Like it threatens all of it. Our lovability, our relationships, our enoughness, our value, our dignity, our goodness. It is an obsession that will keep us busy for a lifetime. As long as we are obsessed with our fatness. And it doesn't matter what kind of body you have. If you live in a thinner body, if you live in a larger body, as long as we obsess about fat, it distracts us from what else is going on in our lives. But what if the real problem is that you have a broken relationship with your mother or your dad or your sister, or maybe your marriage is at a point of crisis. Maybe you hate your job. Maybe you feel lonely even when you are surrounded by people. Maybe there is an ache in your heart that you have been feeling for a long time that simply won't go away. What if that was what was really going on? And all of that, if we're being honest, can start to feel really overwhelming, and our defense mechanism is to shut down. And so what we do is we start sort of obsessing about a secondary problem. And we create another problem so that we go, okay, I don't really know what to do over here, but I do have the skills, I do have the tools to know how to handle and distract myself from sort of this root problem that I don't want to address, that I don't want to look at, that feels scary. And when we obsess about food, when we obsess about our bodies, the way we look or the way in which we don't live up to what we think we should look like, it becomes all consuming. I have lived that story for so much of my life. For those of you who follow me and know me, you've heard my story before. You know how long I struggled with this obsession with my body, with eating to distract me from a marriage that was failing. I mean, I was using food. I was using the obsession of focusing on my body to distract me from a life that I didn't want to be living anymore. And all of these other issues, the issues that we have at home, the issues that we have at work, the issues that we have at school, in our marriage, suddenly disappear when we shift and focus it on sort of this secondary problem. It's really clever. Like if we look at it and go, wow, this is really clever. Like it does work. But as Geneen Roth says, and I want to give a plug to Geneen Roth because I do adore her. I love her. She is an author of many, many books, one of which is called, and again, if you're on the podcast version of the show, I will link to this, but it is Women, Food, and God. This is one of my favorite books. It's just so powerful. But she says in that book, she says, obsessions are ways we leave before we are left, because we believe that the pain of staying would kill us. I'm going to read this again kind of slowly. Obsessions are ways we leave before we are left because we believe that the pain of staying would kill us. At the end of the day, it creates an illusion of control and peace so that we don't have to face what's actually happening in our lives. The obsession is a way for us to avoid that pain. It gives us a way to bolt, a way to escape. It allows our minds for that moment to focus on something else entirely, and it's 100% a defense mechanism. Any obsession is. Now, we're obviously talking about this fat attack and the obsession of excessive dieting or excessive exercise or excessive, being healthy and cleansing and trying to control everything that's going in our mouths and calorie counting and measuring and macros and micros and all of the things that we do, cutting out and eliminating certain foods, obsessing about what we put in our body, fearful to eat this, fearful to eat that, looking at some foods as good and some foods as bad, being on good behavior, making sure we don't screw up and cheat. All of that obsession, how we look, how we measure ourselves against other women, how we size up a room to see our value and our sense of self-worth, our obsession about our weight, about the number, about the size of our pants, the fear of getting into a bathing suit around other people, the fear of what other people might think about us, the fear of judgment, the fear of criticism. All of that obsession is a distraction. Focusing on fat is an escape, but it feels really just normal because that's how our society operates. That's what we talk about as women. That's what we see. That is what we feel like we should be doing. That is when we are on our best behaviors, when we're working out, when we're dieting, when we're losing weight. That's when we're more lovable. That is when we are more enough. But let me say this again. Focusing on our weight is an escape. Whether we're focusing on our thinness or our fatness, or lack thereof, or the pride of being thinner, focusing on our weight is an escape. And what's challenging about this is that it's just temporary. Like this distraction is just temporary. The obsession doesn't solve what the root issue is. And the more that you're trying to avoid a feeling, the crazier an obsession gets. And the tricky part is is that because our society values this kind of obsession, we get a lot of praise for our good behavior. So when we're losing weight, when we're staying on the diet, when we're saying no to dessert, all those kinds of things, when we're counting calories and we're really sticking to it, that is when we feel like we're good, like we're doing what we need to be doing. We are like the pinnacle of what a woman should be. You know, we're more lovable, we're more attractive, all of those things. But kind of the extent of the obsession shows you the extent of what you're actually really avoiding. And as women, it's tricky because it's easiest and it's the most destructive when we're focusing on our bodies. And having this obsession about fat, it gives us the chance to avoid our fear, our anger, our loneliness, our longing, our sadness, our hurt, our pain, but it never resolves the problem. And it's so much easier. It's so much easier, even though it like sucks and we hate it, sort of like it's this catch-22, it's so much easier to focus on counting calories than admitting that you're lonely in your marriage. It's so much easier to measure your food than it is to admit that you are embarrassed that you got divorced. It's so much easier to eliminate a food group and cut it all out together and avoid it and sort of get this pride from it than it is to admit that you're afraid that you're going to fail. It's so much easier to sort of sign up for a eating plan, for a food plan, than it is to admit that you're really grieving your child going to school for the first time and not having that time with you. It's so much easier to focus on all this external stuff than it actually is to look deep into what's going on inside of your heart. And it can consume our entire day, years of our lives. Just think about how much right now how much energy you put into focusing on food, focusing on what you're eating, what you're putting in your body, how you're moving your body, if you have the right clothes, if you have the right makeup, if your hair looks good, if you're thin enough, if you're too fat. How much energy are you expending on this distraction? You know, it's all of our emotions. It's taking up all of our mental space. It's all we think about. It's all we talk about. I mean, I get emails every day from women, like those of you guys who are watching and who are listening, who are caught up in this loop of obsession. Even people who are healthy eaters, you know, I'm using quotation fingers if you're listening to the podcast, healthy eaters who are on good behavior, who are doing all the right things, who are thin, living in thin bodies, and they hate their lives. And they're emotionally starving. They are emotionally, soulfully hungry. Because it's not addressing what's going on, this illusion of control, this obsession. Whether it's using food to numb, whether it's using food to control, whether it's focusing on your thinness, focusing on your fatness, the obsession is a distraction. And as Janine Roth says, obsession is a way of organizing our lives so that we never have to deal with the hard part. And I mean, when I say obsession, I mean this could be good obsession, quote unquote, or bad obsession, quote unquote. This could be an eating disorder. You know, this could look like purging. This could look like binging. This could look like restricting. And it could also, the obsession can be healthy living, cleansing, detoxing, doing these elimination diets, doing these obsession workout plans, things that are widely accepted as being healthier in our society. But both of these kinds of behaviors, when they get into this place of being extreme, obsessive, it's a way of organizing our lives so that we don't have to deal with the hard stuff. And this kind of obsession with food in our bodies is even more damaging because it does two things. Number one, it is allowing us to avoid the real issue. And number two, it's affirming to our psyche and to our soul that we are broken and that we need fixing. So it's just damaging It's not affirming our lovability. It's not reminding us how lovable we are. It's not reminding us that we are already enough, that we are fully capable and resourceful. It's not, instilling that kind of truth. It's doing the opposite. And the real root, what is below the surface, what is the first kind of problem, not the secondary Band-Aid, but the first problem, when we can shift our focus to that is where the real healing begins. And that is where life happens. And it takes a lot of courage. It's a lot of vulnerability. I've been working on this for years. I've been working on it today, just admitting what's actually going on versus trying to mask it by obsessing about something else. And this is where we can begin slowly to sort of peel back these layers and to sort of lay down this distraction in favor of living life in the present. With our present wounding, with our present desire, our present longing, our present hurt, our present pleasure, our present moment, the experience we are living right now in real time. Like, what is happening for you as you're listening to this, as you're watching this? What is happening emotionally speaking below the surface? What is the present experience of your life? And I love this quote from Janine. She says, when you stop struggling, stop suffering, stop pushing and pulling yourself around food and your body, when you stop manipulating and controlling, when you actually relax and listen to the truth of what is there, something bigger than fear will catch you. And this is where you're able to trust little by little that you are strong enough to get through your darkest, toughest days or seasons of your life right now. That you are stronger than you think you are, more capable, more resourceful, that everything you need, you have. And let me be clear, like, you wouldn't be obsessing about the 5 pounds or the 20 pounds that don't even really exist from this fat attack if you sort of believed that your life was tolerable, that you were lovable, that you were safe, exactly as you are right now. If you were at peace, if you were experiencing joy, if you felt grateful or happy or content, you wouldn't have to have this obsession. But deep down, I think we have this fear that we can't handle what's coming up, that life is too much, that it's intolerable, that somewhere we sort of bought into this belief that we aren't strong enough or capable enough to handle our emotions, that it's not safe to feel our way through life. We weren't taught how to feel. Our emotions feel really scary. And we are afraid to be honest with what's coming up for ourselves. It feels really, really vulnerable. That grief, the pain, the fear, the joy, even the excitement feels, scary to feel, because then we think, what if we lose it? What if it all goes away? We're afraid to feel the longing. We're afraid to feel any kind of desire, any kind of pleasure. And so we sort of just shut it all down and we stop feeling. And then we move into these secondary obsessions. And when we stop being willing to feel, we sacrifice our real life. We move into the distraction zone. So how can we recover from this fat attack? How can we start to uncover and be willing to look at what is below the surface? How can we sort of invite ourselves to feel again? And I want to give you just one simple exercise today. Oftentimes, I know sometimes we feel like that this journey can be complicated, and there's a lot of ways to recover from the fat attack, from this obsession. There's a lot of ways to dig deep. You can hire a therapist. You can start reading books, all of which I'm like, yes, oh my God, do that. Yes, it takes a lot of, different little avenues to bring about sort of this healing and coming back home to ourselves and our true worthiness. that exists with unconditional loving. There's a lot we can do, but I do want to just give you one tool today to sort of start this process for you. Something easy, something you can do literally as you hop off the podcast, hop off the YouTube live show. It's short, it's simple, and it's all about honesty. It's all about honesty. What snaps us out of this loop of obsession is honesty. And I know from experience, this is one of the scariest things to do. I lived a life several years ago where I lied about everything. I was so afraid of any truth that was inside of me that I lied about anything. Things that I didn't even need to lie about, I lied about. Because I was that committed to avoiding my feelings. I was that committed to sort of like placating everybody around me, showing a side of myself that was pleasing to everybody else, that I thought was more lovable. That if I actually admitted what I felt, what I thought, what I was afraid of, that it would destroy my entire life. And I remember as you guys know, I was married for almost 10 years. And I can remember this moment so clearly. And it was not good for many of those years. But we were, just like most couples, trying to make it work and doing what we thought we could do, which was a lot of avoiding. And for me, it was a lot of avoiding what I was really feeling, scared to say what I was afraid of, scared to say what I wanted, scared to say what was not okay, scared to say what I needed more of, scared to use my voice at all. And I remember being in Peru, and I lead these self-discovery retreats to Peru. And I remember being on one of these retreats, and I was still married, and I knew that this trip was going to be sort of the turning point for me. And I was afraid of that. I was afraid to get honest with myself. I was afraid to kind of look my shit in the face and admit what was really going on. And we did this beautiful ceremony, and I was with a dear friend of mine, and we were standing by the side of this riverbank. And the whole group of us were kind of in this ceremony, in this experience. And I walked away and I just started bawling. And it was the first time that I had a moment of sort of sobriety, sort of honesty with myself about what was actually going on inside of my marriage, what was really happening, and the fact that I didn't want to be married anymore. And I looked at my friend with tears in my eyes, y'all. And I remember saying to her, I said, I am so afraid that I'm going to hear on this trip that I'm supposed to leave him. And just by saying that, it opened the door for me to be honest with what was really going on. To be honest about the brokenness that was in our relationship, all the things that were dysfunctional, all the things that were broken, that were sort of beyond repair. And that was a scary moment. I mean, it took me probably close to 2 to 3 years after knowing it to being willing to admit it. And this comes in the form of so many different things in our lives. It doesn't have to be that your marriage is, on the outs or whatever. This could just be a preference or a longing or a desire or a hurt or an abuse or a trauma or a fear or a doubt, or a moment of feeling guilt or shame that we are just unwilling to feel because it feels too intense. And what's so powerful is that once we admit what we are feeling, naming the fear, naming the sadness, naming the longing, naming the desire, naming the hurt, we are no longer controlled by it. It's like we bring it into the light and it can't fester and feed in the darkness anymore. It no longer has that kind of power over us, that unspoken, hidden, dark power. It doesn't feel like it's going to be exposed. It's in the light. It eases, it lessens, it feels lighter. We start walking towards freedom. And when we can kind of pause to turn inward towards our pain, when we can give voice to it, when we can sit with it, when we can listen to it, it softens. It's no longer that scary monster that's hidden in the closet that's sort of slowly killing us. We start to see it for what it is. The hurt and the fear of our little child inside who just desperately wants to be loved, that wants to be seen, that wants to be heard, that wants to be protected. It invites us into compassion for ourselves. We stop running, we stop distracting, we stop controlling, we stop pretending, we stop covering up, we stop numbing, we stop focusing on our obsession of being thin or of being good. And we remember that we can just be, and we can feel our way through it. That is the power of radical honesty with ourselves. Whether you speak it to anyone else, whether you say it to somebody else, when we are radically honest with ourselves, it ends the cycle of obsession. Can I get a hallelujah? Can I get an amen? Can I get a hell yes? I need that. I want that. I'm ready for that. It's time. Now I want to pause here for just a second because I want to tell you about an upcoming workshop that I have. Now listen, I am still finalizing the dates and the details, but it's going to be this fall. It's going to be late October or early November. I will be announcing this next week on our show. I will also be announcing this in our newsletter that I send out every week, my email. So make sure that you are signed up for that, and I'll tell you how to do that in just a second. But I'm so excited, y'all, about this workshop. I have been prepping for it. I have been planning for it. I feel like I've been studying this for years. And the workshop is going to be all about cultivating body awareness. So it's going to be a full day workshop where you are going to learn your body's unique language and voice, and learn how your body processes and stores emotions and how to access and release them. We're going to be practicing breathing techniques. We are going to be learning how to identify your body's sensations. Like, how do you know your body's talking to you? How do you know your body is online? Feeling your body. I'm going to teach you some specific movements that are going to sort of get you back in touch with your body. It's going to be a super powerful day. I'm going to talk to you more about it next week, but I just sort of wanted to throw this in your ear to be paying attention and be on the lookout for it because this is coming up and I'm so excited about it. So I want to make sure that you sign up for my newsletter. If you haven't already, the link is in the video description on this YouTube video. You're also going to get a free ebook, The 5 Mistakes You're Making with Your Affirmations, when you sign up for the newsletter. But this is how you're going to get access to the registration for this workshop. It's going to be held in Nashville, Tennessee, so you can travel for it. If you're local, this will be so great for you. It's going to be an amazing day. But this is how you're going to find out about this workshop, is signing up for my newsletter. Or if you're listening to the podcast, you can go to maryhyatt.com, and right there on the homepage, you will see a little place where you can go and sign up for my newsletter there. Okay, so I had to mention that because I'm so stoked about it, and it's going to be just a transformational day. To me, transformation happens when you are in person with other women in community, getting into your stuff and connecting with your body. That to me is just a foundational piece to all healing. So I'm super excited about that. So stay tuned for more details. But let's get into this exercise, right, for recovering from this obsession after we've had this fat attack. Now, what I'm going to have you do is it's a journal exercise. So you're going to grab a journal, whatever your favorite journal is. If you don't have a journal, grab a piece of paper and a pen. And we are going to use a couple of journal prompts that are going to invite us into a space of being honest with ourselves and to give ourselves permission to admit what the root is. And I often say before you are journaling, take a moment to breathe. So take a couple deep breaths as you begin this journey. It's going to feel vulnerable. We haven't been very honest with ourselves or encouraged to be honest with ourselves. We are taught how to avoid, how to distract, how to numb our emotions and our feelings. And so be gentle with this process. So just, make it a sacred moment, light a candle, get some essential oils in your diffuser, whatever you need to do to sort of like invite yourself into this process, and just take a couple deep breaths. And something that I sort of say to myself oftentimes before I start an experience like this is I'll say, all right, I give myself permission to be honest right now. It's safe to be honest. I'm the only one who's going to read this. I'm the only one who's seeing this. This begins my healing. It is safe. It's safe to be honest. Like, we need to know from ourselves that it's safe to be honest, that it's okay to be honest. So sort of just like giving yourself a little talk before you begin this process. Just like, girl, it's okay. We're doing something. We're doing something new. We're trying out something different. It's safe and it's okay. And so here is what the prompts are going to look like. So you are going to just ask yourself 3 questions, and it's sort of like a fill in the blank. So these are these journal prompts that you're going to use. And the first question that you're going to ask yourself, and just jot this at the top of your journal or your piece of paper. If I let myself admit it, I feel sad that ... If I let myself admit it, I feel sad that ... Or you might write, if I let myself admit it, I feel mad that ... Or I feel bad that ... And just fill in the blank for as many of answers as you can think. I remember the first time that I did this exercise, and it was so freeing. It was so freeing to be able to actually say, like, I'm actually really sad that my marriage has ended. I'm really sad that I don't live in that house anymore. I'm really sad that I don't have my dogs anymore. I'm really sad that I don't have that pot or that pan. I'm really sad that we didn't try harder. I'm really sad that I'm in this new season of life. I'm really sad that, and I just like, as you're going through a grieving process, writing that out. Even if you're not in a grieving process currently or aware that you are, there are things that you're probably sad about in your life that you've been afraid to admit. And then I love the one that is, I feel mad that, because this is fearful for women to express anger, to get in touch with disappointment, to get in touch with frustration or annoyance or anger. And so this is a really good exercise to kind of just get it on paper and admit it. Like, I'm really mad that my husband won't do blah, 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 or that my kids are choosing this, or that, I didn't win this award, or that my haircut looks like shit, like whatever it is, just taking a moment to just admit it, to just say it out loud. You don't have to show this to anybody. You don't have to do anything with it, but simply getting honest releases the control and the need to cover it up and to numb and to distract. So that's the first question. If I let myself admit it, I feel sad that, I feel mad that, I feel bad that. All right, so the second question is, what I'm really longing for is, what I'm really longing for is, what is it that you really want? That's also something that we have been taught as women, especially in the church, that is not a safe emotion. To long, to have a desire, to, have a need. We aren't taught that that is okay. We're supposed to be sort of these statues that don't have any longing, that are just happy and smiling and fine. Everything's great. But when we can actually admit what we're hungry for, what we're starving for, what we feel depleted of, what we're longing for, what we need, oh my God, that is so healing. So healing. So the second question is, what I'm really longing for is ... and then fill in the blank. Now the third question, and this is a really powerful question, is, what am I unwilling to feel? What am I unwilling to feel? Now, what I love about this question is it gives us the chance to try again if we felt a little bit stuck from question number 1. By sort of saying, hey, like, I'm unwilling to feel that I'm angry right now, I'm unwilling to feel that I'm really sad right now. I'm unwilling to feel that I'm pissed off about blah, 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 blah. And by saying that, it gives us permission to feel it. It's sort of like using reverse psychology on ourselves. And so it's like a little trick, a little tactic you can use to invite yourself into more honesty. What I'm unwilling to feel is. So that's it. That is the simplicity of this journal prompt exercise. 3 questions. If I let myself admit it, I feel ... What I'm really longing for is ... And what am I unwilling to feel? When we speak, something happens. We start walking towards getting our real life back. We come home to ourselves. We begin to give ourselves permission to feel and to be. And we can begin to lay down the obsession with our bodies and with food, because it's never about the weight. It's actually not about the food. It's not about health. Not really. We convince ourselves that it is. But if we slow down and we look a little bit deeper, those are just secondary issues. It really is about our hearts. And if we trust ourselves in our bodies and believe that we are lovable no matter what, if we are living a life that makes us come alive, if we are able to speak our truth, we don't need the obsession. Your fat attack that you're having is just a signal that's basically saying, hey, something needs some attention here. Pay attention here. And when you slow down to sort of meet whatever it is that is triggering that obsession with compassion, a willingness to hear, a willingness to listen, with a willingness to be sort of present for whatever is coming up in your life without distracting yourself, that is where freedom lives. And the truth is that obsession and awareness cannot exist together. They cannot coexist. And so when you give your emotions room to be, room to exist, to talk, when you're not burying them, then having this awareness, having this curiosity, having this tenderness, this acceptance, this compassion, it eliminates the need for obsession. That awareness eliminates the obsession. The honesty eliminates the obsession. So I encourage you to practice this journal exercise often. I did this for, I feel like I did this every day for months because I was so dishonest with what was going on inside of me. I was really in a season of betrayal of myself that I had to practice this, practice feeling, practice honesty, practice awareness. And it gets honest. It gets easier the more honest we are with ourselves over time. It gets easier and easier and easier to be honest. And it's the only way that we can create a life that we truly love. Because without it, everything else is just a Band-Aid. So hopefully you feel a little bit more aware about what this fat attack is actually about and have a new perspective on it. And I hope you try this journal exercise. I do. I hope that you will see that it is safe to feel, and that really looking at your stuff in the long run gives you what it is that you really want. More than being thin will, more than the control and the obsession of food and calories and working out does. Because it's only temporary, and it leaves you hungry. It leaves you starving. It leaves you trying to earn love. And the other way opens the door for compassion, tenderness, unconditional loving, and deeper, deeper healing. So y'all, thank you so much for being on the show today, for taking time out of your crazy busy schedule to give yourself a little time to explore yourself, your thoughts, your emotions in a deeper way. And I am excited to be with you next week, next Wednesday, 1 o'clock Central, right here on YouTube Live, or if you're listening to the podcast, of course, there as well, every single week. But until then, remember, the purpose of life is to be grateful, to be great, and to be full. All right, guys, have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll see y'all soon.